In this part, I will, with the help of experts, try to tell you as to what are the big ticket benefits that is going to happen consequent to GST. First and foremost, we are going to see the doing away of the cascading effect of taxes. The phrase cascading effect of tax means tax on tax. As if paying tax is not bad enough, paying tax on tax for sure can get to somebody's good. Let's listen to how the cascading effect of taxes is going to get eliminated in the GST regime.
If anyone goes through the preamble to the constitutional amendment, it's amply clear that the avowed purpose of the GST is to eliminate the cascading effect. Say for example, if a manufacturer produces the goods and he invoices for the same, he has to pay excise duty when removing the goods from the factory to the primary storage point. From primary storage point, if the sale takes place to the ultimate customer or even if there is any intermediate dealer, the VAT sales tax will be on the basic price plus excise duty. So, there is a VAT on excise duty, that is tax on tax. This is sought to be eliminated by introducing only one tax regime of GST.
A second major advantage, a second significant benefit that is going to flow from GST is that India's gross domestic product, GDP, can actually see a rise. Some people place it at 2%. A few international agencies place it at 4%. I mean a 2 percentage point growth, a 4 percentage point growth. I don't want to get into the mechanics of what exactly will be the percentage growth, but I would love to tell you as to why a growth in fact is going to happen. You're already aware that technology is the biggest enabler for GST. You're already aware that under the GST regime, whether you are a registered dealer or whether you are an unregistered dealer, you leave cyber prints on GST network, and these cyber prints are impossible to delete. Many of the taxes which escaped the attention of India's tax authorities will no longer escape their attention. It will also therefore be imperative for people to disclose their incomes more correctly.
The India's GDP increased because of GST. How? Now, the GSTN number will have your PAN number as the basis. So, the 15-digit number will correlate all your transactions. Wherever you purchase or effect sale, the result will be passed through your bank. So, the transactions are accounted. More so, if I am effecting sale to you, I will report the sales in my return. When I report the sales by 10th, automatically your purchases will be updated. Therefore, all the transactions will be brought to accounts. When all the transactions are brought to account, naturally your GDP will go.
India has this rich heritage of disclosing different turnovers to different organs of the government. One set of turnover to the excise duty authorities, another set of turnover to the income tax department, perhaps a third set of turnover to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. All of this is going to disappear because the indirect tax authorities are going to share their numbers with other organs of the government. Consequently, you are going to see a more healthy reporting of income, which would mean that a lot of transactions which were thus far unreported and therefore moved into the shadow economy will now come into the mainstream. And hence, in the first few years, there has to necessarily be a growth in GDP, a growth that comes about not because India is going to produce more, a growth that is going to come about because India is going to report more correctly.
What is the benefit of introduction of GST will be felt by the consumers ultimately, because it is going to increase the propensity to spend, because in the longer run the GST regime, once it gets stabilized, the taxes and duties will be brought down gradually, and that benefit will have to be passed on to the customers only. So the customer gets additional money to spend. This additional money will definitely create additional demand. The additional demand will go into increased GDP. So the customer, the industry and the country will be benefited by introduction of the GST.
It is expected that the GDP growth of the country is going to increase by at least 2% is what the economists say. Today, for example, if a vehicle starts from Chennai and wants to reach to Kolkata, the amount of time that it takes is more longer because of the road tax and check posts and things like that. And because of the e-way bill getting introduced under the GST, it is expected that the time that is taken by the logistics provider will reduce, and also the check post and road tax requirements will get reduced over a period of time. Because of that, logistics efficiency will increase. When the logistics efficiency increases, it is expected that 20% of the production in the country will increase, and because of that 2% of the GDP will increase.
In the years ahead, we are going to see a real GDP growth. We are going to see a real increase in production, because when efficiencies take place at the level of the government, when tax rates fall down, when products become cheaper, more of purchases will take place, consequently more of production will happen, and when more of production happens, India's GDP will naturally and without doubt go up. Let's take a look at black money. Because GST is going to make the dealers, both registered and unregistered, leave cyber footprints on the GST network. A lot of money that today does not get reported, a lot of what we might call black money will get reported, which means that they would turn white. In other words, GST hits at the very root of the generation of black money, and in one way, therefore, the Goods and Services Tax Act is not so much a tax reform legislation as much as it is a legislation towards economic reforms. Some rough indications suggest that the average indirect tax component today in the pre-GST regime is about 22 to 25% of the cost of a product. A rough working on the basis of weighted average suggests that in the post-GST era, the average GST in the cost of a product will be about 17%. This means on average, the cost to the end consumer is going to drop down and drop down very significantly. Will it happen tomorrow? Will it happen the day after? Will it happen a year from today? That's a matter that we must wait and watch. The country's finance minister has gone clearly on record saying that each manufacturer will have to necessarily pass on the benefit of lower taxes to the consumer. If the government of India can take steps to ensure that that passing on takes place, then naturally, it's going to immensely benefit the consumer.
The end user will have a large heart. They pay money for everybody. That is, they pay for the increased cost and increased tax. They don't get back input tax credit. Generally, the public may not be benefited initially because of GST. Over a period of time, when the seller is sharing the available input tax credit to the buyer, the cost will reduce.
Our company is going to reduce their final product value. Just because you got a credit somewhere Are they going to reduce the final product value? Always you find when there is a slash in the rates of excise duty by the government of India, that excise duty has not been totally passed on to the eventual customer.
GST is going to be good for the manufacturer producer as well. Today, a manufacturer, as we saw some time back, is subject to a plethora of taxes. 10 taxes plus are going to go away and is going to be replaced with just one. In short, you will see better tax compliance taking place because all said and done, nobody by choice wants to be dishonest.
Businessman will definitely be benefited out of this GST. How? If I am a jeweler having shops at various malls, you know pretty well the malls are very costly and the commercial rent is too much. The commercial rent will attract service tax. Till now, the businessman is not getting the credit for tax paid or service tax paid on the rent because there is no set of mechanism available. Hereafter, that the tax paid on the rent will become an input and the input can be adjusted in their output. Definitely, the businessman will go and get a good benefit. Their per capita income will automatically increase.
If there is one segment of society which is going to be immensely benefited by the kicking in of the goods and services tax, it's going to be the government of India. I told you earlier how India's GDP is likely to go up thanks to GST. I also told you how a good part of black money will get converted or become white. I also indirectly tried to explain to you as to why increasingly more and more people will report both their taxes on the direct tax and indirect tax front more honestly, which means that the government is going to see a buoyancy in tax revenue. And to a nation, nothing can be better than that.
Mind you, till now many of us claim exemption under excise duty because the basic limit for excise duty is 1.5 crores, whereas for VAT and service tax it is 10 lakhs. So many of us are not paying excise duty, but if the GST comes, the basic limit for all the GST is 20 lakhs. When you cross 20 lakhs, you are going to pay excise duty. Likewise, everybody will be paying a huge sum.